Greetings and welcome to a quick tutorial on the troubleshooting methodology. We're going to go through a scenario on a computer not starting. Make sure to pause when I say to pause and ponder the questions, write them down, answer them online for the full better effect of this, so you kind of follow along. But we're going to go through the steps, and again, remember, some things are real simple, but this is a good example of kind of going through and then testing different things, going back in that little loop part of the steps. So our initial problem is our customer tried to turn on his computer. The computer appears unresponsive. He says it was working fine when he left yesterday. However, the system was warning him that an update would occur overnight. He also says that he needs a new monitor as it is over 4 years old and has dead pixels on it. So there's kind of two different problems. Biggest one being the power, and then we can get him a new monitor. So with this, what questions do you have for him? And then you do test it, and indeed it is not on, right? It is not on. So that is something that happened. And then, so what information have you gathered? And this is where you'll go ahead and pause this video, answer these questions, think about them, and we'll move on. So go ahead and pause. All right, welcome back. So let's do some research, right? Don't necessarily need to go online, but let's, test some kind of think of things, verify the button is pushed, check the cables, check the power strips, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the research, right? So we went online, and we get a cool little laser pointer. We went online, and these are some of the things. So most people probably have most of these in their head, but there's some interesting things. Most people probably wouldn't think to replace the CMOS battery. Most people would not check this, and we'll talk about the supply voltage. So those are not common, but let's go ahead, and this is what research shows up, right? We did a research, knowledge base, where we got this information. These are things that could be reasons for it not turning on, right? So now, in your own words, what are some of these theories, right? What do you think could be wrong based on this research? What are your theories that would be probable causes of this? So based on that, go ahead and pause here. Welcome back. All right, so if you came up with some good stuff, basically ranging from it's not actually getting power to other things like that. That was kind of what the research was indicating. So some theories. So what do we need to do? What would we try to test? Well, what I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to kind of go through each of these. There is an answer to this particular one, but I'll have the slides available to you as well. You can click on this and again do it yourself, what you think it might be first, and then when you go to them, it'll take you back to this. But we're just going to kind of go through. So first thing, try the power button. And there's a reason why we ask about troubleshooting is, have you tried turning it on and off again? Even in my classes before, I'm like, have you turned your computer on? And then I see a student turn off their monitor. I'm like, that is not the power button to the computer, that is the power button to the monitor. So simply enough, people do not actually know where the power button is sometimes. But in this case, it didn't work, right? So in this case, it didn't work. We're going to test out the new monitor, and this is going to help kind of with some things. We plug it into the power strip, and it doesn't turn on either. We don't even see a light on it. So this is good information to kind of go back through and test our theories. Let's check the cables. Now this is a huge one, right? Especially with internet connectivity, power issues, I always tell people to follow the cables, right? Just don't look a couple spots. Follow the cables. Run the whole line, because like in this case, it's plugged into a power strip. So maybe you're like, oh, I see that the power strip is plugged in. on one side and I see that it's plugged into the computer, but maybe it's not plugged into the actual power strip. Or, again, as you're following the cables, you notice that the power strip is not turned on. These are really important. Again, this also applies to Ethernet, right? Your internet cables, is it plugged into the computer? Is it fully plugged in the computer? Follow it back. Is it cut? Is it damaged? Is it actually the right one plugged in? It looks like everything's plugged in, but then you follow it and it's actually running somewhere else that's plugged into nothing, right? So again, follow the cables. A great example. Follow the cables. But in this case, you go down, you see the power strip is switched the correct way, but there's no light on the power switch. So let's keep on working out. We say, well, maybe the light's not on the power strip because the power strip's not working. So we plug the computer directly into the wall. Still no power to it. So this is cutting to hopefully get us in the right direction. Now, this is a great one. I'm going to point this out. At this point, I probably wouldn't check this because the power strip wasn't getting any power. The monitor didn't get any power. But this is a good one to check as well. If it was getting power, if all of that was getting power, this is a good one to check. And basically, in the back of the computers, a lot of computers, there's a little switch where you can go from like 120 to 240 or something like that. If you switch it to 240, it's not going to accept the 120 that it's getting fed, right? So the 120 is what we have in the United States. So depending on where you're listening to this presentation from, your results may vary. But again, that switch can get changed, and then everything else looks like it should be getting power. The monitor's getting power. But in this case, right, we know there's no power to anything else. So we could probably skip this one at this point, but I do want to point out why that's on this list. We try a new power supply, right? So maybe that was it. Maybe the power strip was not working, right? However, we did also try plugging directly into the wall, so probably not, right? Probably doesn't not. So changing the power supply, which we needed to do anyway, probably. It was getting old. We replaced the CMOS battery. Again, based on what we've done, this probably wouldn't be super necessary, but again, it doesn't solve it. New power strip, we already talked about that. We try a different outlet. So this is probably what most people would actually try last as well. So we try a different outlet, and lo and behold, the computer turns on. So that means that there's no power going to that particular outlet, and thus we got to go figure out what tripped the breaker and do this. Now, fun fact, I've had a problem like this before, and we checked all of the breakers in the school, and there were hundreds of them. And what actually happened was it was a science lab, and there was a light switch, I guess a switch because it wasn't really controlling lights, but it looks like a light switch, and I think it was an emergency shutoff to all the power outlets in the lab. Well, they had put a bunch of computers in there, and they didn't need all their science equipment in there. Kind of converted it, so someone had shut this switch off, and it shut off all the power to the lab. So again, this is a great scenario to go through, and I'll point out one. Again, it wasn't even the breakers that did it, and that's how we tried other outlets, and they didn't work. Only certain outlets worked. So something to think about as you're troubleshooting through these scenarios. So that final step, now you need to document it, right? What did you do? What did you try? What did you find out, right? And this is how you're able to whittle stuff out. Like, I know it's not if the monitor is not getting power, I know it's not the CMOS. If the monitor is getting power, I know it's not the voltage, right? I mean, it still could be if you get the monitor on and it's still not turning on, right? You can go back to those, but this is the end of it anyway. So basically what you're going to do is, why was the computer powering on? What steps should have not been attempted till checking the outlet breaker? And I kind of just went over that one for you. So, and what are the steps to fix the issue, right? What can you do to fix the issue? So go ahead and answer those questions. That is all for the scenario. We will see you next tutorial.